Now, there is a chart I have shown you many, many times because it is the future of the Australian relationship between government, debt, and the future of our country. Now, I want to keep this up because you've seen it a few times, but for those who do not remember, if you remember it though, say it along with me. Every single blue line inside the red rectangle are budget deficits between this year, next year, the year after, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, all the way to 2063. Every one of those deficits is added on top of the previous one, the previous one, the previous one, the previous one. And even before this red line starts, we are $1 trillion in debt. Just putting a couple of those columns together would get us to $1.5 trillion, eventually 2, and goodness forbid even further than that. So this matters, right? This basically is that the federal budget is structurally spending more money than is coming in, even when the population will increase to 40 million people by the 2060s. Well, Jim Chalmers, fresh from the federal election campaign, he was at the National Press Club today, where he confirmed what I have been saying for years, what Treasury confirmed since 2023. Oh, but now it's news that he's going to admit it as far away from a federal election as possible. He has admitted that his budget is not yet sustainable and it depends on productivity and productivity growth. Put simply, it's not sustainable because as the population grows, so will the expenses of the federal government, but the income to the federal government will not match the explosion in spending because they are promised too much spending in too many areas for too many people. Here's the Treasurer finally admitting what we've known for years but have had confirmed by his own Treasury. That document I show you, that graph is from 2023. So before Trump, before a whole bunch of things, before what was going on in the middle of 2023. The next 40 years was screwed from 2023, nothing to see here, everything's awesome in 24, thanks for the re-election in 25, and now this.
To deliver higher living standards for our people, we recognise 3 blunt truths. Our budget is stronger, but it's not yet sustainable enough. Our economy is growing, but it's not productive enough. It is resilient, but it's not resilient enough in the face of all of this global economic volatility.
Now, they're not the first, they won't be the last. But these people were able to get themselves not just re-elected, but with a thumper, so much so that the opposition that was already behind the 8 ball is now, gasping for political life. So they are in a perfect political position to suggest they're going to be around for a very, very long time. But as they did with the vote for us and cost of living will get better, the majority of people fell for the lie in 22. We told you it was a lie. They said it wasn't a lie. The reality turned out that it was a lie. We've turned the corner. Everything's awesome. Everything's okay. We're excellent economic managers. We told you it was a lie, but people fell for the lie, and now we get proof of the lie being a lie. So we get to this scenario about exactly what's going to take place. And what is going to take place is a thing called tax reform. And I want you to hear how many times he said it in the speech to make sure that even the idiot right up the back was able to learn, hey guys, tax reform, tax reform.
Tax reform, tax reform, tax reform, tax reform, tax reform, tax reform, tax reform.
Now, you may well think tax reform just means cutting taxes everywhere. Well, we already know that that has been part of the game over the past couple of years. But of course, if you rob the government of revenue, but you continue to increase its spending, then guess what? The budget becomes unsustainable. So there's one option, which is to cut back the amount that you are spending. But of course, that would create losers, and cuts is sort of the evil ooga booga stuff that has very successfully worked against the Liberal Party for a couple of elections now. So guess what tax reform means? Increasing revenue to the federal government. And you may well read, and every time you hear that there's not enough tax reform, you pretty much now need to read that there's not enough plans for increasing revenue. Now, obviously, politically, would they ever put up the tax rates on the individual worker? Remember, the single biggest source of revenue to the federal government? No. Why? Because those people vote. But of course, they're going to go after a certain section of those people who may well not traditionally vote for them, or they might go after businesses of which they don't care if they hit the wall or not, because remember how many times we talk about the plan is the triangle? To be dependent via handout, to be dependent because you work for them, or to be dependent if government is your biggest customer. This gets them to 60, 70% of the population. Look at what Andrews and Allen have done in Victoria, what Palaszczuk until recently had done in Queensland. See how people don't rock the boat? Well, Ken Henry is a man who was hired by the Rudd government to do, among other things, a full root and branch review of the tax system. He, of course, has come in and out of, plenty of corporate jobs, but the media often turn to him as the guy who did the tax reform review, the tax review. So interestingly, in an interview with the Australian Financial Review, Ken Henry is kind of starting to bell the cat about what tax reform would actually mean. Can I read this to you? At some point, the rate of the GST is going to have to be increased. Okay, so the GST is going to go up. And its base is going to have to be broadened, meaning more things. More things. I'm just writing all this down in GST. You know, it's like fresh food. Revenue is not a problem. If you want to boost the federal budget overnight by $50 billion a year, all you would have to do is apply a carbon tax at the present price of carbon credits to the carbon embedded in Australia's fossil fuel exports, coal and gas. That would give you $50 billion a year. Yes, I know that by just putting a price tag on something, theoretically, you're able to clip the ticket and that $50 billion. But maybe if the cost and the difference between the profit you make on the export is anything under that $50 billion, the people who are exporting it won't do it because they're not going to do it to lose money, mate. The former Treasury head said that the government should also address a really big anomaly of superannuation. Okay, so that one as well, super taxes, okay. So despite the fact that you, since the 1990s, have been putting your money away, forced to do so by the government, on the provision that if, 5%, 7%, 11%, 16% if you're in the public service is being put away, that nothing will ever eat away at it. Oh, but now it's a big giant pot of money. Thanks very much. We might change the taxes on that. Fair dinkum. So that's what tax reform is going to mean, okay? Now, we might clip a little bit here. But the reason we're clipping a little bit here is because we can sell that to all of the little mushrooms who vote. And because they work for companies, they don't run companies. Because they work for businesses, they don't own businesses, who cares? Well, the reality is, after multiple years of this government, its policies and its administration, there are thousands of businesses that don't exist anymore. A record number went to the wall in the past 3 years, and guess what? The latest numbers about where we are this year compared to last year were even higher than that. Nearly 7,000 business collapses as insolvencies surge. Particular areas that are copying it, the construction industry, food and accommodation. But because, of course, all of that's not run by the federal government or the state government or the local government, who cares, right? The number of businesses shutting their doors has reached a historic high, as almost 7,000 businesses across New South Wales have become insolvent in the past 11 months. Data shows insolvency in New South Wales increased by 26% from the same time period last year, which was 5 and a bit. It's now almost 7,000 businesses. Because you see, they're outside of the triangle, right? Anything outside of the triangle, the only thing that it is for is to give money to the triangle. That's it. The latest ASIC insolvency data reveals 1,000 businesses in the accommodation and food services sector, mostly cafes and restaurants, have shut their doors. Close to 2,000 construction companies between July 1 last year, May 25 this year. Let's compare this state to state. New South Wales has the most insolvencies compared to others. Victoria has 5,000 of them. Queensland has 3,000 of them. Western Australia has 1,200 of them. And South Australia has 850. Oh, but now's the time for tax reform. Yeah, nothing will at all happen to the businesses of Australia if you increase the GST from 10 to 12 to 15%. Yes, most of that money will go to the states, which means less complaining from them, but still the sticker price is going to go up. Oh, that's serious. That's serious tax reform. Just charging people more is not tax reform. It is just trying to find the fuel to fill the tank for how hot the government is running when it comes to its own expenditure, which by its own admission will be in deficit next year, the year after that, as far as we can see for the next 40 years. But because they'll all turn around and say, Donald Trump's fault, Orange Man bad, rather than anyone turning around and saying, yeah, okay, you might say Orange Man bad, but your Treasury made this forecast in 2023. In fact, it came out on the same day that he was having his mugshot taken in Atlanta, Georgia. So he was as far away from the presidency as anyone could possibly imagine, literally giving his fingerprints and taking a photo. But you watch, what they knew would be bad by 25, 26, 27, they will now turn around and blame them on Orange Man bad. Why? Because they can, because they do, and because most of the media is along for the ride, they'll never call it out. Hence why they will just keep trying to bunker buster at us. But we need you to be here live, 9 o'clock Australian Eastern. Homepage skynews.com.au. When you see these videos pop up on YouTube, share them around to your mates. Again, none of this is contestable. This is all facts, right? Facts from ASIC, facts from the Treasury, and facts from what the Treasurer said today. But because big footy game on, have a look over there, something's happening on the other side of the world, Prime Minister saying g'day to world leaders rather than meeting the most important one in the world, because he's putting flagpoles up out the front of the White House, nothing to see.